Hey guys, and welcome back to a Blender tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be using Blender 2.76b. Now, this is just going to be the very beginning basics of learning Blender. So, let's get started. So I'm going to start with the navigations first. Over here, you have all of your parts. Like, if I create another part, just over here in the Create tab and do a circle, or let's do something three-dimensional. Let's do a sphere, or cylinder. Let's do a cylinder, and then there's the cylinder, and over here the cylinder pops up. If I click on the eye, it'll make it disappear, and if I click on the eye, it'll make it appear again. Make the camera disappear, the cube disappear, the lamp. So that's kind of useful, and that does the same thing when you get more and more parts. So let's delete that. And this is something that always messes me up. It's really confusing, but you do get the hang of it. If you want to select an object, instead of left clicking like every other program in the world, it's right click. So if you right click on the thing, it'll select it, and that takes some getting used to, and then X to delete. So now let's take a look at these tabs over here. You have your render. So if I click 0 on the numpad, it'll show you your camera view. If you want, just click A to deselect everything, and then right click on the outside of the camera and right click and hold. I can drag the camera around while I'm in the camera to get the perfect view. So like that. Oops. Like that. That's a good camera view. So if you want to see what this would look like when it's rendered, you go into the render tab. You can render, animate, or audio, but we're not going to be animating anything, so let's just do render, and it renders it up really fast. Now to get out of the render, just click escape, and then if you want to really illuminate your square, right click on your light source and do Shift D, and then you can bring it over this way and over this way. So now we have those two light sources. Go to your camera view, looks good, and then click on the render button, and see now it's not shaded there. So that's just a simple overview on rendering, and then of course you have your shading and all this different stuff that we'll go through in different videos. But that's the rendering tab. Then we have the layer tab. We'll do that in another video. Lighting, and then here is the world tab. And then the object. This tab is really useful. It's like the part preferences, the object settings. So right, this is kind of a useful one. If you go down here in the object settings, click on textured, and you can change it to wire, or select your object. Then you can change it to wire, and now your part is a wire. And you see you're not in wireframe mode. Down here is all your different modes. You have object mode, which is what you're in right now, then edit mode, sculpt mode, vertex paint, texture paint. So really, the ones you use most often are object mode and edit mode, and to switch between those, you can just click tab, and it'll switch between edit and object mode. And then, if we put this back to solid, if you don't want to actually change this, the object settings itself, you can go here and just go to wireframe, and that'll make everything wireframe. But if you had more than one object, like on the very inside here, if you had a cone, let's move it up and in the square. Let's go to solid view, and just click S to scale it. Just click S once, and then drag in to scale it down, like that. Now, if I go into wireframe mode, and I don't want this cone to also be wireframe, I want the cone to be solid, that is when you can just select this and then change the actual settings of the object to wire, and then this will just be wire and the cone won't be, and you can select the cone right through the wire. So that's kind of useful. Nice feature there. Now in the next one, let's change back to solid. Got constraints and modifiers. Modifiers would be like if you have, see, like a plane. Let's click S to scale up this plane. Move it around with these arrows a little bit. Gonna center it on the square. Really like that. Looks pretty good. Now, in the modifier, if you select your plane, you can see if you click like 1, and see right now you'll be like, whoa, my plane doesn't have that shape. What it is right now you're in perspective view, and there's a difference between perspective view and orthographic view. Orthographic view will change it to like two-dimensional drawing. So if you click 5 on the numpad, that'll put you into orthographic view. Now, you'll notice you don't even see your plane. That's because your plane doesn't have any thickness at all. So if I middle mouse click to pan a little bit, so you don't have that. So go back to 1 with your thing selected. Add modifier, solidify. And then, if you get out of it, now you can see that it actually has thickness to it. So that's pretty, I mean, that's useful for thickening up planes and making walls and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And let's move this guy over this way and over this way. Make it so, oops, let's just scale it up even more. Scale it down even more. Let's go a little more. Just a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So now let's change the object color, like the material of it. So if you go over here into the material settings, well actually there's this one we skipped, that's just for planes and stuff. We'll do that in another video, but then over here is the object settings. So I'm in the material settings. So new material, and let's click on this color here. Let's change this to like red. And now it's red. But let's now change the color of this to blue. So these two are opposites. Now let's just see what it looks like whenever you render it. So you can go all the way back here to your render tab, or you can go up here right by file and do render image. And this of course is with Blender render, and we can try it with Cycles render in a second, but Blender render is really the fastest. So we can go into textures, and this would be for adding like your own textures, like if you drew them up in like offline or something, and then take them off and then stick them on Blender, and that'll be like for UV unwrapping and stuff. And then this would be particle settings and fluid settings or physics settings. This would be for animating fluid and stuff, but that'll definitely be in another video that's a little more advanced. So let's center this just a little better. Oops, don't select it. Okay, now let's move the camera up a little bit. And just a tiny bit. There we go. So like that looks great. So now let's render it up with Cycles render, and this might take a little bit longer, but since we don't have that much shading now, it looks pretty light, I mean dark to me. So let's throw in some more lights. So select the lights. I'm going to select both of them at the same time and bring them down a little closer. Do Shift D. And down here, this would be your scale tool, your rotation tool, and the normal arrow tool like that. So we're going to go into the rotation and spin these around like that. So we have lighting on all four corners. Then click and drag these so that it's even. Same with these now. Deselect those by clicking A. Now center them like that. Rendered view. Okay, now go to render image. And I like that better. You can see there's a lot less shadows, and that looks pretty good. So that was just the basics and the navigation on Blender. So I hope this video was useful, and if it was, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.